The judges must choose how the JOC has put Zimbabwe's constitutional court in the most impossible position in its history. Right? Tiripo pamzinda wevanhu mure Zimbabwe. I'm your host, Super Galo, pano pamzinda wevanhu. Let me ask you a question. Imagine you are a judge. You have spent your entire career building a reputation. You have a pension, a family, a home in Harare, and one morning you walk into the Constitutional Court and you realize, not theoretically, not as a legal abstraction, but as a very concrete, very personal reality, that the case sitting in front of you is not between the government and the opposition. It is between two factions of the security services, both of whom have historically been willing to move tanks when they feel strongly about something. How do you rule? That is the question Zimbabwe's 7 constitutional court judges are sitting with right now. And it is the most dangerous judicial position any Zimbabwean judge has occupied since 1980. Mure Zimbabwe, what the JOC, the joke, actually is, and why it changes everything. So most Zimbabweans know that the army, the police, the CIO, but the board that actually coordinates all of them, the institution that sits at the apex of Zimbabwe's entire security architecture, is the Joint Operations Command. The JOC, the JOC, the Joint Operations Command, Mure Zimbabwe. The JOC comprises senior officials from the Zimbabwe National Army, the Air Force of Zimbabwe, and the Zimbabwe Republic Police, the Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Services, and the Central Intelligence Organization, the supreme organ for coordination of state security in Zimbabwe. JOC. This is not a parliamentary committee. This is not a cabinet subgroup. This is the board that, in moments of genuine national crisis, determines what the state does and how it does it. It has been claimed that in the wake of the 2008 presidential election, the JOC de facto took over day-to-day decision-making of government, effectively operating as a military junta. And here is what makes the current CAB3 crisis categorically different from every previous constitutional battle Zimbabwe has seen. This is not the ruling party versus the opposition. This is not ZANU-PF versus MDC. This is not the state versus civil society. This is a conflict inside the JOC itself, the Joint Operation Command itself, with senior security cluster figures aligned on opposing sides of the CAB3 debate. When the institution that coordinates the army, the police, the Air Force, the prison service, and the intelligence organization is internally fractured, Zimbabwe does not have a political dispute. Zimbabwe has a constitutional emergence wearing a legislative debate as a disguise. The impossible position: 7 judges, 2 armies. Now, let us talk about what this means for the 7 judges currently deliberating on the CAB3 constitutional challenge, In a normal case, opposition party challenges government policy, court rules based on the law, government either complies or appeals. The judges face pressure but not existential risk. The worst outcome is political criticism from whichever side loses. This case is not normal. If the judges rule against CAB3, declaring the cabinet process unconstitutional, ordering a referendum, blocking parliament from proceeding, they are effectively siding with the Chiwenga-aligned military faction. The progressive forces, the generals who have drawn the June 6th line, the war veterans in the Constitutional Court itself. If the judges rule for CAB3, clearing the path for parliament to proceed, rejecting the war veterans' conflict of interest argument, dismissing the referendum requirement, they are siding with Mnangagwa and with the security cluster elements still loyal to his presidents. Either way, the judges are not making a legal ruling. They are making a factional alignment decision in a conflict where both factions have institutional access to weapons. This is not what judicial independence looks like. This is what the collapse of judicial independence produces. A moment where even the judges understand that their ruling is not just legal, it is political, it is personal, and it is security consequences. Zimbabwe, enjoy. Let's talk about the illusion of control. Shattered. Here's the most important political development of this entire CAB3 crisis. It has nothing to do with who wins the court case. For decades, through Mugabe and into the Mnangagwa era, Zimbabwe's ruling establishment maintained one critical fiction. That the state was unified, that the security services spoke with one voice, that the JOC was a coherent command structure behind the presidents, that when the president said something, the generals nodded. That fiction is dead. The JOC has been accused of spearheading state-sponsored operations and manipulating elections, but it has always done so as a unified board, or at least as a body that maintained the appearance of unity. What is happening now is something Zimbabwe has genuinely never seen before. Retired generals publishing intelligence dossiers on social media, active factions within the security cluster aligned against each other on a specific legislative question, the vice president publicly refusing to chant the president's slogan, the Reserve Bank governor photographed with Chiwenga in Gormons on the same day the president attends at a grey wedding. Military commanders reportedly meeting to draw headlines about parliamentary deaths. Zoimons, the appearance of unified control is gone, and in authoritarian governance systems, the appearance of control is often more important than actual control. Mugabe understood this. When the appearance finally broke in 2017, he was finished within days. Mnangagwa is watching the same thing happen to him in slow motion from a luxury jet that cost $18,000 per hour. Let's talk about the June 6th trip, and there is no good exit. Here's the brutal political geometry that the Mnangagwa faction now faces as parliament prepares to reconvene. Option 1. Force CAB3 through parliament on June 6th using the ZANU-PF supermajority, no secret ballot, MPs whipped into compliance, bill passes, constitutional court judgment, whatever it says, ignored or appealed. Right, outcome. The Chiwenga-aligned military faction has already reportedly said this triggers intervention. The progressive forces move, and Zimbabwe gets a political transition nobody internationally recognizes. SADC scrambles, and the economic consequences are devastating. Option 2, Zimbabwe, pull back, delay CAB3 indefinitely, let the Constitutional Court rule, accept a referendum outcome that everyone agrees will reject the bill. Outcome, ED 2030 is permanently dead. Mnangagwa's political legacy becomes the president who tried to extend his own term and was stopped by his own vice president, 6 war veterans, 7 judges, the Catholic Church, and a retired spy who posted dossiers on X. And me, of course, Supergado Panbams in the van. Right, neither option is good. One is catastrophic and the other is humiliating. This is what happens when a government spends a year building an unconstitutional project on a cracked foundation. Both exits lead somewhere painful. Bottom line, Zimbabwe, June 6th is the reckoning. The countdown has begun. The battle lines are not being drawn anymore. As this analysis states, the concrete has been poured. 7 judges are deliberating in a building where the cameras were blocked because powerful people did not want Zimbabwe watching. Parliament reopens June 2nd. CAB3 faces its first reading June 6th. And somewhere in the corridors of the JOC, Joint Operation Command, the body that coordinates every instrument of state power Zimbabwe possesses, 2 factions are watching the same calendar, waiting for the same date, and prepared, each in their own way, for what happens next. Zimbabwe has been here before. November 2017, tanks in the streets, a president who thought his control was total until it wasn't. The Constitutional Court bench has 7 seats. The JOC has 5 institutions, and June 6th has 24 hours. Pano pa Mzinda wa Vanhu, we will be counting every one of them. Subscribe. Zimbabwe's most fearless political voice. Do you think the courts will rule before June 6th? Is there any exit from this trap that does not end in crisis? Drop your most explosive analysis in the comments. Like, share, and support independent journalism through Join and Super Thanks Oro Stars on Facebook. Peace.